The Supreme Court over the next 2 days will hear arguments on both DOMA, that's the Defense of Marriage Act, which allows the federal government not to recognize gay marriage, even if some states do. And that affects over 1,000 different federal laws, by the way. And Proposition 8 in California, which bans gay marriage. Now, that has been overturned by several courts in California, but now the Supreme Court will look into it. Now, if they wind up siding with getting rid of DOMA and Prop 8, obviously it will be historic and it will affect the whole country. But they could have a more limited ruling, which just says that they, especially in the case of Prop 8, that, for example, they might say, you know, the people in front of us have no standing, and so we can't decide this case, in which case Prop 8 would go under because the lower courts ruled against it, but it wouldn't necessarily affect the rest of the country. Now, which way they're going to go is, of course, up to probably just about two justices, Justice Anthony Kennedy and possibly Justice John Roberts. And, of course, he's the Chief Justice. Now, they could go the other way and say, oh, DOMA and Prop 8 rock. Yes, gay marriage is bad because we don't like it, because it doesn't agree with our religion. There's no really rational explanation for that position. But oftentimes, of course, the court hasn't needed a rational explanation at all. For example, in the Dred Scott case, Chief Justice Taney said, yeah, well, of course, I don't care if you were in a free state. You're going to be the property of your slave owners, and that's that. Now, of course, that decision lived in infamy, and we'll find out if these decisions live in infamy as well, depending on which way they go. Now, here's the reality of it. There's no question in the world that this country is evolving on gay rights. Among the young between 18 and 39 years old, 70% are in favor of gay marriage. Not just gay rights overall, but specifically gay marriage. It's 58% of the country when you look at overall numbers, and they are moving swiftly. Now, the conservatives know they're on the wrong side of history, but they're always on the wrong side of history. So it's never stopped them before. They were against overturning slavery, the conservatives in this country. They were against the civil rights movement. They were against the women's rights movement. That's what makes them conservative. They never want to change anything. I'm for tradition. We've always crushed women's spirits. Let's crush it again. I've always owned black people. I should own black people. I'm a conservative. And that has been the case. And they have time and again and again in this country lost. And this case, when they step into the Thunderdome, they will lose again. Okay? Now, when it comes to the Supreme Court, in the short term, we'll find out in June. And I'm not saying definitively that those conservative Supreme Court justices will rule the right way in DOMA or Prop 8. Chief Justice Roberts has his first cousin that's actually attending the hearings. She happens to be a lesbian. God knows whether that'll affect him or not. Scalia, for example, thinks, oh, who cares, man? My own religious interpretation of what some guy claimed to be speaking into a bush 2,000 years ago is much more important than your laws or your rights or your Constitution. So Roberts and Kennedy could go in that camp. We'll see. But in the long tide of history, they have no chance of winning. Now we go to Gary Bauer, undeterred by history or anything else. He's going to argue over the weekend, no, we got this on lockdown. We're going to win this debate. Really?
Quite frankly, the argument that the public is overwhelmingly in favor of same-sex marriage, Chris, is ludicrous. 33 states have voted to keep marriage the union of one man and one woman. If the opinion of the American public was so overwhelming, the gay rights movement and their allies like Nicolle would not be asking the Supreme Court to say to the American people, you have no say on this issue. We're going to decide it here in Washington, D.C.
Wait a minute.
So this is the oldest argument in the book for Republicans. They do the same thing in civil rights. You just have to let the good people of the South vote on whether they should have colored fountains or not. What if you were not so worried about where the American people are? We are with the American people. Now, of course, what they leave out is, yes, in Alabama, whites outnumbered blacks, and unfortunately for a long time, white racists outnumbered blacks in the state. Now, things are changing, of course, throughout all those years, but in a vote, the white racists won back in the day, and they would say, of course, keep the blacks separately, put them in the terrible schools with no funding, and, you know, make sure that they swim in different pools, yada, yada, you know the whole thing. And the Gary Bauers of the world said, what are the liberals so afraid of? Why don't we just vote on it? Because we don't vote on constitutional rights. That's not how it works. You have constitutional rights like the right to vote and the right to be treated like every other citizen. It's called equal protection under the laws. You don't vote on those. Apparently he misunderstands the whole point of the country. All right, but nonetheless, here he goes again.
58% now think same-sex marriage is legal, 36% illegal. 10 years ago, the numbers were the reverse. 37% legal, 55% legal, and there's a big generational shift. Look at this. Among people between the ages of 18 and 39, the margin is 70% to 27. You're also a Republican in addition to being a social conservative. Do you worry that this only puts the Republican Party further out of touch with the mainstream of American voters?
No, I'm not worried about it because the polls are skewed, Chris.
I love that. The polls are skewed. No, you're screwed because of the polls. And that's 58%. There's no arguing with it. And like I said, among the young, it's 70%. And it keeps getting worse and worse for them every single year. And what's their only argument? The polls are, I don't believe numbers. Republican war on math. I don't believe numbers. Ha ha. Yeah, good luck with that line of reasoning. And besides which, again, you don't vote on it. That's not how it works. There's a lot of things you vote on, okay? This is not among them. These are fundamental rights, the right to be treated like every other citizen in this country.